Do you remember the chaos that underwater properties caused in 2008 and 2009? Well, it's starting to happen again, Michael Snyder reports. We never seem to learn. Over a decade ago, our leaders created the biggest housing bubble of all time, and when it finally burst, the entire globe experienced great financial pain. So did they learn from their mistakes and fix them? Fix the system? No, instead they just created an even bigger housing bubble, and now that housing bubble is beginning to burst, and that's going to have very serious implications for all of us. One thing that we learned during the Great Recession is that home values really matter. When home values get low enough, many borrowers simply decide to walk away from their mortgages, and so the fact that U.S. home values have plummeted by $108.4 billion should deeply alarm all of us. Homeowners are sitting on a negative equity time bomb after losing $108.4 billion on their property values this year, experts say. The average borrower saw their home equity plummet by $5,400 in the first quarter of 2023 compared to last year, with households in Washington, California, and Utah worse affected. The West Coast is being hit by particularly hard. For example, home values in Washington state have dropped by an average of more than $74,000 over the past year. Can you imagine? An average of $74,000 loss on your property. The cooling housing market is stripping more equity from homeowners in Washington than in any other state in the country. On average, over the last year, Washington homeowners lost about $74,300 in equity, a measure of the difference between how much a home is worth and how much the owner owes on the mortgage, and according to the real estate data company CoreLogic. That 18% decline marked the largest drop in the country from the first quarter of last year to the first quarter of 2023. Some homeowners in Washington state that bought their homes at the peak of the market now have mortgages that are underwater, and according to an expert that was interviewed by Daily Mail, this is starting to happen in certain areas all over the nation. Zachary Smigel, founder of Real Estate License Wizard, told Daily Mail, the decline in property values across the U.S. is posing significant challenges to homeowners, and is becoming a bigger issue in the real estate sector. We are indeed witnessing some worrying signs of negative equity, especially in certain regions. The good news is that this is not happening everywhere. So many people have been relocating to Florida that home prices have actually gone up substantially in that state. If you want to get an idea of what's been happening where you live, you can check out the map in the link here. And moving forward, I think that home prices will not move uniformly. In major cities and in blue states, I believe that home prices will tend to fall. In rural areas and in red states, I believe that home prices will be more stable. Meanwhile, many commercial real estate loans all over the U.S. are already deeply underwater, and we're starting to see delinquency rates rise at a startling pace. And if you doubt this, just check out the numbers which come from Wolf Richter. After blowing through the pandemic with no more than a squiggle, the delinquency rate of commercial mortgage-backed securities, CMBS, backed by office properties, jumped to 4.5% by loan balance in June, up from 1.6% just 6 months ago in December 2022, according to TREP, which tracks and analyzes CMBS. Office mortgages that have been packaged into CMBS went through a horrendous default cycle following the financial crisis, with the delinquency rate topping out at over 10% in 2012 and 13. But this current 6-month 2.9% point spike from 1.6% to 4.5% is the fastest 6-month spike in TREP's data going back to 2000. We're still in the early chapters of this crisis, but it's definitely eerily similar to what we witnessed in 2008. Corporate bankruptcies are also surging. In fact, it's being reported that they were up 93% during the first 6 months of this year compared to the same time period of 2022. In the first 6 months of 2023, there were 340 corporate bankruptcies, topping every other comparable span in 13 years. And according to S&P Global Market Intelligence, this is up 93% from the same time a year ago, and higher than in 2020, when there was a spike during the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. When we keep getting numbers like this, I honestly don't know how anyone can claim that the US economy is moving in the right direction. There are so many signs of trouble all around us. For example, the number of searches for pawn shops near me just soared to an all-time record high. Cash-strapped Americans are panic searching pawn shop near me. The search trend spiked to a record high at the start of July and is an ominous sign the consumer might be pawning items or selling things that were possibly bought during the COVID boom to raise quick money amid the worst inflation storm in a generation. Needless to say, people don't pawn their possessions when they're doing well. Searches for the phrase, "Is dumpster diving illegal?" Can you believe this? Also just reached an all-time record high. All over the nation, people are literally rummaging through dumpsters behind grocery stores because food has become so oppressively expensive. But don't worry, Joe Biden says that everything is going to be okay. If you have been following my articles on a regular basis, nothing that I have shared in this piece should come as a surprise to you. It was clear way in advance that the economy was headed into enormous trouble, and the long-term outlook is exceedingly bleak. But that does not mean that you should crawl into a corner and cry like a baby because things are going to get so bad. It's when times are the darkest that the greatest courage is needed. You were born for such a time as this, and you can make a difference even in the midst of all the chaos that's starting to erupt all around us. This is by Michael Snyder. He says about the author, "My name is Michael," and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, The Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.